So I came here alone, feeling heat and the world coming over me. Got a way of your own, but I told you that life ain't a fantasy. It's just your way. Rocket fuel runs through your brain. Like I told you on the train, that it's the only thing she knows. The only thing she knows. The only thing she knows. That it's the only thing she knows. She knows. So it started to rain. Met a woman with eyes like a hurricane. Told her she was the one. When she looked at the moon, calling me and said, now I watch you every day. So lit up, it's just your way. Rocket fuel runs through your brain. Like I told you on the train. Well, it's the only thing she knows. The only thing she knows. The only thing she knows. Said it's the only thing she knows. Got up on the wrong side and I'm getting burned again. That grass is looking brown today.
You good?
I think we're good.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Can we get a sound check from everybody? Dave, you there?
Check, 1,
Scotty?
2.
Nope, no sound from Scotty. Scotty is in
Check.
Metropolis, the silent movie.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
You there?
Yep.
Yep, I heard the cough. Awesome. Great. Awesome. Well, we're here. We made it, and only 8 minutes late. So great.
A full crew.
A full crew. Yeah, it's been a while, right? You know,
Yeah, right.
it's been a while.
No.
You know, the first show I wasn't there. The second show Dave was there, and then the third show is right now, and we're all here. So
We're all here.
What season?
Third time's a charm.
Yeah, what season is this, Eric? Is this 7 or 6? I don't even remember.
We're still in 6. We're still in 6.
We're still in
Still
6.
6.
Still in 6. Still 6. Yep. Yeah, I think we're still 6.
No, we start the new season on New Year's. So we did the calendar.
Oh, so we're in 7. So we're in 7.
Yeah, 7
wow.
episode 3. Yeah, so
Wow, season 7.
this would be season 6 for Eric because he came in the second year. I think Scott came in 4 and Dave came in at 5, and then Scott came back in 6. No, it's something like that. I don't know. So it was kind of like back and forth, but pretty cool times. We're going to try and get into a little something different, right? This week we're going to try something a little different. Hopefully, please let us know in the chat if you like it or not. If you don't like it or not, we're going to try.
Speaking of chat, do you see anybody in the chat?
Yeah, I saw a bunch of people.
See everybody in the
Yeah.
Jackie,
You do? Okay,
Wilfredo,
maybe
Ross,
they all left us.
Maybe I'm just looking at something. Maybe I'm looking at something wrong here.
Yeah, I see everybody. I see Maddie. I see
All the Reggies.
Nikon Jax, Wilfredo. I see Ross.
Okay.
I see Tom Peter. And of course, Super Dave
This is
is
weird
there.
because I'm not. It's just so weird. Maybe it's just me.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing anybody. I'm not. It's like I see us. I see the stream. I just don't see anybody. The chat. So,
Oh, you don't see the
You have
chat
the
box?
chat on.
just
You have the chat
I've
on.
got the chat on. The
Refresh.
chat's on.
It's definitely working.
Refresh.
Going to live chat, go to chat. I'm gonna
Auto is here. Autopilot. What's going on?
Yeah.
LC.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I saw somebody say
Brian.
saw somebody say something about Neef, but I missed it. You're going to be at Neef, Matt. Oh, okay, that's not Jacks. Yeah, okay.
Matt, of course, Matt's going to be.
There we go.
Matt's going to be at
There
the
we go.
bar.
Now we're all good.
Matt's going to be at the bar.
I'm stealing your spot this year, Matt.
Yeah, we're going to cordon it off. We're going to get there early. How's it going, buddy?
Yeah. In regards to Neef, you know, I told Dan the other day, I've got family. I mean,
suck.
That weekend, I know, it sucks, dude. It does suck.
So I guess
you know this.
That being said, I hate. Listen, Eric, I'm not trying to push you up, but you know how much I love hanging out with you at Neef. It's great. It's like one of the time per year I see you.
I know, right?
And but we will be looking for somebody to fill Eric's shoes as far as an interviewer. I don't know if anybody wants to jump in or not. That's, if you're interested. I know Dave likes to float around. I don't know if you're interested. I know Scott's not going. But I'm not going to put anybody on the spot. If anybody wants to talk to me about doing it while I'm working in the store, just let me know.
Well, I wonder if Greg's going to be there again. Dr. Greg,
Yeah, I have a couple girls that work the cameras, and it'll be fine. But if anybody is interested,
it's not only that. It's not only the interviews, and which I enjoy. It's just hanging out and even just talking.
I know.
Just talking to people, helping people out. At the storefront and all of that. So yes, it's going to be a bummer.
Yeah,
bummer because this is, because this would have been I think my fourth.
Well,
maybe
fourth. Yeah, fourth.
Maybe my fourth. Yeah,
this would have been your fourth because your third was the you went to one
because we had last year
after the leg, right? So.
Yep. Because we had the first one. I remember the first one. Then the second one, I was walking around with the cane.
So the first was Neef 2023,
and then last year,
and then 2024, and then 2025. And this would have been your fourth. Yeah,
it was in my fourth.
Yep. So, but life happens. We'll be. You're a big part of the booth also. So you helped out quite a lot. Hopefully you'll be. However, if you're so inclined, and if anybody else is so inclined, I know Dave is close and you're semi-close. I was asked by the West Virginia Astronomers Association, something like that, for the whatchamacallit, for the what's the name of the star party there? I can't.
What the West Virginia Star Party?
Is that the
Blue Ridge
Star Party?
No, it's not Blue Ridge. Damn, I forgot which one it was. But the dates are
it'll hit you.
July 15th to July. Green Bank.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
And they asked me to be a vendor there because of the possibility that Cherry Springs isn't going to happen, or Black Forest for that matter. So I told them yes, I would go. It's going to be smaller, but it's almost exactly the same drive to Cherry Springs, except it's south instead of west.
And what time frame is that?
July 15th to 18th.
All right.
So anyway, so that's where we're at. NEFA is still going on. We're going to be there, but today we're talking about what is it? The all-in deep sky rig. I think we're talking about. Is that what we're talking about today?
Yeah.
Eric, you want to I've been yapping. I'm a yapper, so I mean, I'll feel free and shut up for a little bit.
No, it's all good, bro.
I know.
So yes, we've been talking a bit about things to do as far as improving content, but one thing we talk about a lot, and we can't reiterate enough. It's about, especially to our novice, astrophotographers. If you're a novice and you've just discovered us, welcome. We really appreciate you guys coming and checking us out. We really appreciate that. But the questions, the question is always, I want to get into astrophotography. I have I have maybe so much money, you know, what can I do? Where, what things can I do? What and how do I get started? And so we decided to break this up amongst the four of us, talk about equipment as well as processing and software. So I am going to talk about what's, of course, in my opinion, and I think most of our opinions, and is the most important piece is the mount. And we're gonna recap, this, and we're going to also talk about staying within maybe within a certain budget if you're getting started. And we have to remind everybody that if you're getting into deep sky astrophotography, I'm not talking landscape because there's so many different aspects of astrophotography.
Yep.
You've got nightscapes and Milky Way, you've got lunar, you've got solar, deep sky. We're focusing more on deep sky. Because that's what I think at least the four of us have the most experience in, and as well as most of the people in the chat have the most experience in, or most interested in. So getting to the mount, and I'm going to double check something here really quick. So just bear with me here. And
I will say there are people in the chat that
Yes,
do
yeah.
specialize in solar.
Yep. And
Yes,
some do
they
planetary.
do specialize in solar. Some do planetary. And we have a lot of, we have those those specialists in those.
And the plan is, right, Eric? The plan is to get one of those specialists on to do an all-in and
Yes.
beginner rig to show us what would be how to start with planetary or solar, and then what's the all-in kind of, I'm in the rabbit hole, I ain't getting out mount, knows that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll have 2 nights of that, one an all-in and one a beginners. So that's definitely the plan, because we do have some solar imagers, we do have some planetary imagers, we have some short focal length, long focal length. It's a whole bunch of things. So what we're going to talk about tonight is not all inclusive, but it'll give you a good place to start, I think, right, Eric?
Yes, exactly. It's going to give you a good place to start, and maybe in certain things to think about. And now these are our opinions, our individual opinions, or we may differ on a lot of different things and stuff like that. My first thing, especially when it comes to the mount, is to get you started, get you into, get you something, or recommend something that's going to get you started, but also maybe in a way also help you. Maybe this is also something that you can maybe consider future. So we have talked about there's different types of mounts. You have and the goal and the key to the mount is precision tracking. Your mount is the heart of everything. It's what tracks, it's what slews to your target. It's what you use to track your target. You use it, it's a key part for your auto guiding, which is when you lock onto a star in that area of sky that you are imaging, and it slowly begins to track that star, so you can do long exposures. You can do long exposure astrophotography. So, and you can do different there's different things you can do with your mount. It has different types of tracking levels. Sidereal, which is the most common one for deep sky. Then you also have, of course, you have your lunar tracking and your solar tracking if you are doing that type of
Orbital
astrophotography, the lunar or solar or orbital stuff. Thank you. Things in our own solar system. So what I'm going to talk about when it comes to your mount is some of the things you need to think about. Again, I mentioned consistent tracking. You're going to have, you need, your auto guiding. repeatable auto guiding, key thing also meridian flips, so then when your target moves over that imaginary meridian line from you want to have reliable meridian flips that can make sure that you can continue imaging from east to west. All right, because targets they usually start in the east and they cross the meridian line, and your mount needs to do a flip from looking to the east to looking to the west. All right, so it has to do that flip and it has to be reliable. It has to be consistent. Okay. Another thing we also want is predictable behavior. We want to make sure we know our mounts are going to work at midnight, 2 o'clock when we're sleeping. We need a trusty, reliable mount that we know how it behaves. Okay. Um, One thing that we have started getting into now over the past 4 or 5 I say 3 to 4 years, maybe three, are harmonic drive um, and or strain wave mounts. And the key what I like about the strain wave mounts, of course, a lot of people like about them. They're lightweight, but they also have heavy torque. They can handle heavy payload, and we want to keep that in mind because when we talk about payload, it's about everything that sits on the saddle of your mount. Okay. Yeah, that's the OTA, the telescope itself, and everything that's attached to it. If you have your cameras, your filter wheels, your rotators, your flat panels that may be attached to it, your guide camera and guide scope, your computer maybe is attached to it, be it a Melee or an ASIA or a Pegasus, not a Pegasus, but a Prima Luce Eagle. Though you have so much weight that you're going to be putting on this mount, one key thing is to remember, what can your mount handle? What amount of payload can your mount handle? So you definitely want to keep that in mind. When you were starting out with small, you're starting out small. You usually start out with a light refractor, with a lightweight refractor, but sometimes you want to, as you get better, you want to expand that. And that means you want to expand that, moving from that small refractor, maybe something a little bit bigger, maybe even a long refractor, maybe a Newtonian or a Schmidt or whatever. So my thought is, as far as a mount is something that can grow with you and still in the world of astrophotography is something that is reasonably priced and it's reliable. And that's when, honestly, I am going to talk a little bit about this one right here that I have right behind me. Um, it is one of mine. It's a new mount for me. It is a Skywatcher Wave 150i, and the payload capacity with the counterweight is up to 55 pounds. So that means you can grow with this mount. You can start out with a very lightweight with a lightweight setup, and it's going to do very good as far as tracking and auto guiding, looking up to your equipment, and taking commands to track properly. It's going to do all that, but this guy, unlike the other mounts that are out there, like our German equatorial mounts, which are the most common, um, it weighs a lot less. Okay, so it's easier to move around, easier to use and get set up with, easier to travel with. If you want to take it and travel, maybe go to a star party or anything like that, you can do that. This guy, without the counterweight, you can take this counterweight off and your maximum payload is 33 pounds, which is usually, more than sufficient for people who are getting started. the types of OTAs and the type of imaging rigs that they're going to be putting on this guy. You know, they're not a lot of people may not go big. They'll, you know, just want to start with something small on this. And this will do it very easy. It'll handle it very easily. It'll do the job. And as I said, when you're ready to move up, it's already here for you. You can handle up to 55 pounds, which is with my Edge 11 here in Elevate setup, it's about 45 pounds. So that's a lot of weight. So this grows with you. And you have, and with that, you know, it is, I don't want to, you know, keep fumbling over the same thing, but here you have that platform that you need. It is a stable platform. You know, a stable platform that you need to do effective deep sky imaging, long exposure imaging, as well as any other type of imaging you want to do, solar or planetary or anything like that. So that's the first key. And something like this one here, is with this setup, it's about $2,200, if I'm not mistaken, right now. But it's maybe a little bit more. Actually, if it's not on sale, it's probably about 24, right? And I'm seeing here, if I'm not mistaken, this guy also. And if you can get this set up with a simple tripod. You can get a carbon fiber tripod, which is good for lightweight setup, which is only going to cost you maybe $250 to $300, maybe. And you can add on a small pier like this, which is in my opinion, is very good to have. Something you should really consider. This is only a $200 part. You can get the Skywatcher piers that you can purchase, you can put your wave on. You can purchase a stable tripod, such as a Skywatcher EQ6 tripod, which is a steel tripod, not like this one, but it's one from Skywatcher that you can use that they sell normally with their EQ6 German equatorial mounts. You can get that tripod on its own for, I think, about $350. So all in with a nice stable tripod that's going to be able to handle that weight, unlike the that carbon fiber one that, you know, a lot of people use with the strain waves. You have a stable foundation. You have a nice ear that can help clear, you know, so it can help you clear the cabling, you know, the cable issues that you may come across, having that up here a little bit higher, sitting up a little bit higher, and a 12-pound mount. So in my opinion, something like this setup is going to be great for a astrophotographer who is just getting started, and it can grow with you, as I said, and it's going to be easy for you to move it around, unlike, you know, the traditional German equatorial mounts that are out there. And this isn't the only one. This is just mine here. There are other types of strain wave mounts from other manufacturers that you can take a look at, and maybe they have some other features that may, you know, be more to your taste. But with this one here, with the nice saddle, with the power saddle and everything, I think it's a solid. Setup. So with that being said, I will now move it over to.
I got a question.
Who's going to take the next one? Yeah,
I got a question. It's gonna be, I believe Scott is number 2, if I remember right. So
okay.
But I got a question. So I had a customer, and I have it on you for a reason. Can I use this to do astrophotography? Let me see if I can get this up here. Can I use this?
No.
What is that exact?
Do
No.
astrophotography.
No.
Can I use this?
No, you cannot.
Because I got this real.
What exactly?
Why don't I want to use something like this?
Because of what you're doing right now.
Because it's flimsy.
Yeah.
Because of what you're doing right now.
Very weak.
Yeah, exactly. If you can lift your mount up,
that is very weak.
guys talking over each other. So yeah.
I said if you can lift your mount up, that your tripod up that easy, that's not the one you want.
Yeah, the tripod. But I mean, you got to remember that the mounts these days are very, very light. But these things, unless if it's a burla back,
The mounts,
you know,
Mhm.
you know,
the mounts are very light, but what you're putting on it, you're adding that additional weight.
it will do.
And you're adding that additional weight, it's going to tip. It's going, you are going to end up having more problems. You're going to end up causing problems, but it may end up damaging that equipment that you are hoping to do actual photography with. And that's what
Now,
you don't want.
Those carbon fiber tripods are very, very light as well.
Super light.
However, the key is if you're going to use something that lightweight, you better have some ballast hanging down from the center of that thing.
Yep.
Stable.
Right.
Exactly.
Right here.
And this,
Something
you don't have
down,
that.
right?
Exactly. And with this, you do not have that. You do not have that.
And if you did have
that,
you'd break the plastic that this is.
It's not. Yeah.
It would just go.
Yeah. Oh, that's plastic there?
This is all plastic. This is from a Meade Polaris scope from a long time ago.
Okay.
It's all hollow aluminum. It's not solid at all.
I had something similar with an old Bushnell reflector.
Yeah. Good for, I mean, honestly, I'd be hard pressed to do visual on this thing because I could actually, I'm not a strong guy. I got strong legs. I got no hand. I got no upper body strength. I have nothing. But I could actually, with my left hand, and I am righty, push these things together.
You can see the flex. Yeah.
And if you start putting, not to mention the fact that this doesn't guide or doesn't track or doesn't do anything,
completely manual.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a tripod like this and somebody tells you could do astro imaging, send them to me. I'll take care of them. But yeah, I wanted to show this out just because just to some people have this kind of, I don't know, myth that you could do astrophotography with anything because everything is so light these days. There's the right tool for the right job, and that's all I want to say. I don't want.
It's the right tool for the right tool for the right job. If you want to get the carbon fiber tripods, they're very popular. You can definitely go with those, but you have to have that extra weight, that ballast there in the middle, extra counterweight that weighs it down. All right, you don't have that with this.
To keep it from tipping
to keep it from tipping, yes. For me, I would say, this is just my opinion, I would forego that and simply purchase something with this steel tripod. The steel legs, the steel tripod, the EQ6 tripod. You can get it separately, and then you can get a Skywatcher Peer that will connect to that EQ6.
Yep.
To put up this type of wave, mount very easily. Like I said, spend $350 on that because these steel tripods, where that is aluminum.
Oh yeah.
With a steel tripod, you're going to have stability. And that's going to be able to handle extra weight that you may in the future decide to add on once you may feel that you're comfortable enough that you may want to graduate up to maybe heavier equipment.
Yeah.
So like God bless him, he says buy once, cry once. Get a steel tripod in this type of a setup for this. And that way you buy once, you won't have to cry. you buy once, you cry once for the money you spent, and for $350 for that tripod, how much is a carbon fiber tripod?
Depends on where you buy it from, anywhere from 3 to 4. What?
My Gitzo
3 to
tripod that I
400s.
use.
Oh no. He's talking about Skywatcher.
No.
ZWO.
No, I'm talking about this Skywatcher.
Yeah.
I'm talking about this Skywatcher steel tripod, for something like this, and you want to just put on that EQ6, tripod, that's what, like 350.
Yeah. Anywhere between
mistaken.
3 to
Something
400.
like that.
The Skywatcher's a little bit more these days, but you can get it, between 3 and 400.
But they're beefy, I can tell you.
They're
It's
beefy.
They're
Exactly.
1 3/4 inch steel tubing. They're fat.
Yeah, and you have an EQ6, so you've got that tripod, that stainless steel tripod. So you can attest to what it can handle.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, on my harmonic
yeah.
mount, I put on a Meade LX85 tripod, which is, I think, 1.5 inch steel tubing.
Nice.
So for something like this, you get this set up. You're going to spend up, little less than $3,000 for the most important piece of your astrophotography setup, which is the mount.
100%.
So,
very good.
all right. Cool.
All right, Mr. Scotty.
Scott?
What do we got as far as mounts, as a telescope is concerned?
Yeah, I can you guys hear me okay?
Yep, perfectly.
Yep.
Okay.
You're good.
Just one thing to add on the tripod as far as the quality is concerned. You got to remember too that you're shooting at, you're not shooting at terrestrial objects, where a little bit of vibration is going to be a problem. You're shooting at stars, where just the slightest wind is going to cause a shudder.
Yep.
In that image. So if you've got any flexure at all, or loose bolts, or bad construction, you're not gonna get good results.
No.
Don't buy cheap tripods. It's a pet peeve of mine.
Yep.
Get a good damn tripod. Spend the money. You never have to buy another one.
Yep, 100%.
Exactly.
As far as telescopes go, there are all kinds of choices and things. It really what it comes down to is the kind of imaging that you want to do. Where do you want to go with the hobby? Are you wanting to do galaxies? Are you wanting to do nebula? It's going to come down to focal length. It's going to come down to the aperture size. You're going to go wide field. You're going to go narrow field. A telescope is basically just a big camera lens. Granted, there are differences between camera lenses and telescopes, but for the most part, it's just a big camera lens. So anybody that's got any experience with camera lenses know that there are prime lenses, that are fixed focal length. There are variables. You're not going to get telescopes that have variables, at least none that I know of. Most of them are going to be what are considered prime, and you have to determine, are you looking to do things that are much closer, that you can shoot wide field with. A lot of the targets that are up there, you can easily get with telescopes that are under 600 millimeter. You don't have to go over 1,000 millimeter, So are you talking about big nebula, wide field stuff? Are you looking at galaxies, in small nebula or planetary nebula, stuff like that, where you need something a little bit longer focal length? And there are ways to get around, both the wide field and the narrow field. I did that with my SCT. I bought a system called the Hyperstar, which allows me to use that huge telescope, at 720 millimeter and not, 2,700 millimeter. The back of the scope, with the focal reducer shoots at 2,700 millimeter. The front of the scope with the Hyperstar on it shoots at 720 millimeter. So I can do a lot more with that telescope, but there's also extra added cost in that. So, it's going to, if you're just starting out, I would say don't do what this idiot did. Okay. I went I went completely balls to the wall crazy and bought a C14, you know, and everybody thought I was nuts, and I probably was a little nuts, but
Yeah,
it has worked
we
out
still
for me.
think you're nuts. There,
Yeah,
it's not only
it
the scope either, just so you know.
no, it's in all things, right? You know, what you got to do, you know. But you know that when it comes down to is, you know, if you're unsure of your skills and going into this, you know, an SCT or you know, a Schmidt Cassegrain, you know, or a Newtonian might not be your first best choice. I'm not going to wave you off of that. I'm just going to say make sure you know what you're doing. If you're looking for something that's kind of, you know, idiot proof, relatively idiot proof, you know, you know, the apochromatic, you know, refractors, you know, a good quality apo, you know, or refractor, which is basically a prime camera lens, a huge prime camera lens, but a prime camera lens. It uses glass elements in it, right? And so the advantages to things like that is that you're not going to have to deal with a lot of the problems that you have with some of these other rigs. Now, granted, an SCT is not terribly difficult to collimate, but from what I understand, you don't have to worry about collimation issues much at all, you know, with a refractor. So, you know, there's minimal to no collimation problems there. You get also, there's a predictability, you know, with a refractor. You know, you as long as you've got a good flattener, you know, you're going to be okay. You know, it's going to be predictable across the board. You're not going to have to worry about, you know, is my primary mirror, you know, flopping on me? Is my secondary mirror out of collimation? You know, there's
Yes,
those issues
exactly.
aren't going to present themselves. So, you know, and but again, there are ways around that. There's also the ease of autofocus, especially with some of the really nice focusing systems that you see in some of the refractors that are coming from some of these manufacturers, like oh guys, help me out. The William Optics is the one I was
Optics.
going for.
Yeah,
Yeah,
William Optics, the WIFD.
yeah, they've got some amazing focusers, all right, you know, that are built into their rigs. And you know, you can pretty much slap a motor drive on there and a drive system, and you can have an autofocus routine that's predictable and rock and rolling pretty quick. You know, and autofocus, I can tell you horror stories of the autofocusing problems I was having with the C14 until I went and got a really, really good focusing system from Starlight Instruments. So that fixed the problem altogether. But you know, it was an expensive, you know, venture to do that. I think that, you know, it added probably about $1,000 to that rig just in the focuser. So, you know, ultimately, what you're talking about is, you know, quality. Not just in your focuser. You want to have quality across the board. You know, and so when it comes to, you know, buying any kind of telescope, get the absolute best that will keep you out of divorce court. You know, the best that you can buy, you know, for what your budget will handle and what your wife or your husband will allow you to purchase. If you go cheap, it's probably going to wind up costing you more money in the long run. You know, it's like what Eric said about our buddy Pete. You know, buy once, cry once. Pete helped me a lot early on, you know, to make sure, you know, that I was going down, you know, a road that I wasn't going to be disappointed with. So
One of the things I was gonna let me interrupt real quick is uh, telescopes also determine kind of which camera you use as far
yeah,
as image circle and stuff like that, and you know, and you can spend a little less on a telescope, especially like refractor, but you may have to spend more on a camera. For instance, you can get a good quality doublet, but you're going to have to buy a mono camera, or else you're not going to get good for the color.
yep.
So, and then you with a
So
mono camera, you're buying the filters and all that other stuff. So,
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, and using a decent camera with any rig that you've got is an important aspect. It's the same in DSLR photography. You know, you can have really good, you know, camera body and a crappy lens. You know, and you're not going to be real happy with it. But you can also have a really crappy camera body and a great lens, you know, and you're probably going to be a little bit better off. Now, that may not translate directly into what we do in telescope, in DSO and you know, photography acquisition, but camera. The camera that you use is very important. There are software applications that you can check into that will help you to match the telescope, you know, as to what, if you decide, okay, this is the focal length that I want, this is the kind of telescope I want to get, what's the best camera to use for this particular setup. There are applications that you can use to help you to determine that, you know, as to the kind of camera that you need, the sensor size, and so on and so forth. So the other thing that is you know, is nice about the refractor is that they're stable. You know, they as long as you don't pull a bonehead move and drop the stupid thing, you know, you're probably not going to have very many mechanical issues with it. You know, it's not going to be subject, you know, a great deal to great excesses in humidity, you know, or temperature ranges, you know, where things are flexing and moving around a lot and throwing things out of collimation. So there are some pretty good advantages to using a uh, you know, a refractor. You know, and so, you know, but there again, you know, you have to talk about focal range. You know, to get a refractor that is out to 1,000 millimeter, you're
It's a big
spending
boy.
a ton of money, a ton of money.
Mhm.
I think that William Optics sells a particular refractor that is, I think, out at 1,200 millimeter, but it's what, $15,000, something like that.
Yeah, it's
Very,
something like, yeah.
very expensive. Yeah, they
Yeah,
get to
it's
be very,
ridiculous.
very expensive.
Yeah,
You know, so
it's definitely, you know, you know, a 6-inch refractor to a 6-inch Schmidt is in cost is incrementally
night and day.
crazy compared. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
it's night and day.
Yeah.
Night and day.
A Floral
Yeah,
Star
the
156 is over $7,000.
yeah, and there are
That's
ones
their
even bigger than
biggest.
that. I think that William
Mhm.
Optics has a 1,500 millimeter, don't they?
No, this is up to 1,200. This is their biggest. Their biggest is the 150 is the FLT 156, and its
They don't have a
focal length is
180? I
1,200.
thought they had a 180.
I thought they had a
do have a
180.
No, not for sale. Do they?
Yeah. I thought they did. I could be wrong. I thought that was that crazy one he was holding and almost falling over.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I don't think they've sold. I don't think they're selling that one anymore.
no, okay. It's crazy.
So,
Well, and
Special
there's a
order
reason
only.
for that. Yeah, I mean, you know, most people they don't want to pay the price of a BMW for a telescope rig. So, you know, and it can get crazy. So the thing to do, you know, is if you want DSO, is either to use something like a Hyperstar or to get two rigs. You know, have a refractor for your more wide field, you know, acquisitions, and then have something like an 8 or a 9 1/4 or 11-inch, SET for your deeper sky objects. You know, you can also just go ahead and buy a Hyperstar, and that will give you the best of both worlds. The downside to the Hyperstar is that it is mounted on the front of the telescope, so you are limited in what you can do. You know, there's manual rotation that's involved. You know, you are limited to a single filter drawer. You can't use a filter wheel with it. So there are advantages to using a refractor, for your wider field stuff, because you can put all of those other accessories, automatic rotators and filter drawers, filter wheels, and all kinds of other things on it, where you can't really do that with a Hyperstar. the advantage to the plus on the Hyperstar is that it is very, very fast. You're not going to find, you know, a refractor that is going to shoot at f2. At least you're not going to find it cheap. So, you know, and I don't even know if they make a refractor that is that fast. You know, so you know, so when you're looking at, you know, coming down to focal ranges, you know, you're basically, you know, in two different camps. One of them is going to be for your SETs, which is going to be your long range. You know, you're out at 1,000 millimeters or more. I think the 8-inch is, where does the 8-inch native? Is it at 1,600? Something like that?
Well, 20,
8-inch
2032.
8-inch
2032.
Yeah, 8-inch Schmidt's 2032.
2032.
Yep.
Okay. And then I must have been thinking with the reducer on it. But
That
Reducer,
and then
it's down to 14.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and but then, you know, you go up from there. You know, 1,000 millimeters is pretty much where a lot of your smaller SCTs, you know, even the smallest SCT I think is more than 1,000 millimeter. You know, the 6-inch SCTs I think are, you know, they've got to be over 1,500 millimeter. So, you know, you're reaching a lot farther with an SCT. The downside to the SCT is that there's a little bit more fiddly work. You know, you got to worry about collimation. You know, you got to worry about mirror flap. You got to worry about, you know, there's lots of other things to consider, you know, with an SCT. But if that kind of fiddly work and keeping things up to snuff is your ball of wax, and you like doing that kind of stuff, that mechanical stuff, it's never bothered me. I've always been good with that kind of stuff. So it doesn't really concern me much now. And I've also been very, very fortunate that my rig it must have been made on a Wednesday, because it's made very, very well. It hasn't given me much problem. And I guess I'm very fortunate in that. I have heard some horror stories of SCTs that were just or Newtonians for that matter, that were just a nightmare to stay in collimation. You know, but it isn't always that way. So, you know, also in looking at, you know, back focus, you know, and you know, the use of flatteners and reducers and so on and so forth. You know, when you're talking about, you know, SCTs, you know, a flattener is only necessary in scopes that don't have the flatteners built into them like the Edge does. The Edge it doesn't need a flattener. So, and if you're considering, you know, an SCT, I think is Celestron the only company that has that kind of technology? Does Takahashi have that, or do they require a flattener? You guys know?
Claims they have the coma free. So,
Okay.
Yeah, but
sued.
Me's no longer around.
Well, and they were sued by Celestron over the technology.
Yeah. So sorry about that.
Yeah.
My mic was on mute. I was trying to talk, and you know, I got sniffles and dogs, so I'm just trying to stay on mute.
I thought I remembered something about Takahashi having something like that, where they didn't need
Talk only has that one Schmidt that I think it is a pure flat field.
Yep, and
yeah,
you know, as far as edge free, coma free kind of stuff, I mean, the Celestron is definitely the one that has the most in it, as far as I know. There are other ones that are trying, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. But you know, so
PlaneWave's somebody said PlaneWave, yeah, but that's also a CDK. It's corrected, so it's a little different. You know, it's not definitely, you know, it's. I guess
that's more like a RC than a Schmidt.
Correct, and it's also about.
But let's not do, but
$20,000 more than your normal Schmidt. So
yeah,
there you go. There you go. So let's not forget who we're talking about here when we're trying to get him started. I don't think most of the average astrophotographer, when they're just getting started, wants to spend $20,000 on an OTA.
Agreed.
That's just me. So That's all I'm saying.
So when,
you know,
when it comes
and,
to
yeah.
back focus and flatteners and reducers and things, that they're most of your refractors are going to require, you know, a flattener. I think there are some that don't, but most of them do. So that's gonna have to be something to work into it, unless this telescope comes with its own flattener, and I know some do.
Well, or it's a Petzl design.
Or it's a pet. That's where I was going to go.
Or a Petzl,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. If that's what design.
So but also measuring and accommodating for your particular back focus, you know, and that's going to be something also that is going to determine the kind of you know, accessories that you're going to want to put in there. You know, by the time you start adding rotators and off-axis guiders, you know, and you know, the filter wheels, you know, and all the necessary things, you need to make sure that you're in the acceptable back focus range, and that goes for any telescope. So you know, the exact spacing, you know, for that corrector to your sensor is determined on the kind of shape that you have for your stars. You know, so if your back focus is either too short or too long, you're going to see an odd pattern, you know, in your imaging. Your stars are going to look strange, and there are diagrams that you can look at that if your picture looks this way and it matches what you're seeing in this particular diagram, you know, you're either too close or too far from where your sweet spot is for your back focus. And in setting up your back focus, it's important that you have good solid measurement. You know, you want to make sure that you're using, you know, good measuring techniques. You know, the dressmaker's, you know, flexible, you know, a tape measure that is in your wife's sewing kit's probably not going to do it. You know, you need something that is going to get you down to thousandths of an inch, you know, and a good set of calipers will help you to do that. You know, and to make sure that everything is dialed in the right way. And here's the thing too, is that not all telescopes, you know, just because you've got two C14s or two C11s, or, you know, whatever kind of telescope you've got, just because you're using the same telescope doesn't mean that they're going to have the exact same back focus to a thousandth of an inch. You know, you have to play around with that, and that's why having spacers, buying spacer kits. Blue Fire is one company that you can go to for good spacer kits.
Blue Fireball.
Blue Fireball.
Yeah, it's from
what I say
from Agena.
Yeah, blue. Yeah, exactly. The Blue Fireball. I've got some of their spacers, and that they've helped a great deal. You know, and in getting those, and also, unless the spacers actually have it stamped on them, because not all of them do, having a good set of calipers, you can be able to mic those spacers out so that you know exactly what it is that you're putting in there, so you can work out the math on it.
Yep.
So don't guess at this stuff. You know, you need to make sure that you build to a specific diagram, right? And, you know exactly what you want, you know, in that imaging train, and then build to that. That's where good spacers, good, you know, filler spacers, good spacer rings and things come in, and you know, and going from there. So many of the imaging trains, by the way, they all start at about 55 millimeters. You know, that's a common standard for most of our rigs. You know, they start there, but the telescope itself is going to have its own particular back focus that you need to adhere to. So the you know, and just in kind of wrapping, you know, the whole idea, you know, and looking at it doesn't matter whether it's a refractor, whether it's a Newtonian, you know, or an astrograph, you know, an SCT, you know, a RASA. It doesn't matter what it is. What is important is that you first and foremost figure out the kind of imaging that you want to do. You know, and the only way that you're going to do that is by doing your own research. University of YouTube is a great place to start. There are all kinds of you know, great presenters out there, you know, and photographers that can help with that. There are some fantastic books we promoted here on this channel a lot. learning what's up there, and the kind of imaging that you want to do it's very, very important. And you will also find that you will grow, and you may start out, shooting nebula, but then find, wow, there's a lot more up there than just that. Or there's images, there's stuff that I can shoot that requires a lot longer focal length than this red cat is giving me, So you may go to, a carbon star, or another Newtonian, or maybe go all the way up to an SCT, and find that the bug is bitten you in the butt really hard.
Yep.
So, but at any rate, if I don't know if there's any other things that we can really talk about with telescopes. Anybody asking any questions?
Pretty much a lot of the basics, the types of scopes. And again, remember, just like the mount, right? It's the right tool for the right job, right? And I believe somebody said it in the chat. Where is it that it got? Who is it? Creole Canuck Astro. Started with an Evo Guide 50, then a 150 Imaging Nude, then a 150 Maxitough Cassegrain, then a 71F, and they all have different purposes, and that's can't be
Yep.
more true. You sit there, and then once you get into different types of focal length, I mean, just like me, I have like 6 different imaging scopes. Once I get my stuff together up here, I got the one down in Texas. I got most of them are refractors. I also have a 9 1/4, but they all serve different purposes because you know what? The biggest thing, and everybody that has watched the show knows my pet peeve about this. I am not giving away, if I could do it, not 1 millimeter of real estate in focal length ever. I will buy another scope. I just don't like taking things apart. I don't like putting them back together. Once it's set up, I like it set up, and I like to take it out, and that's it. We're done. I don't like reducers. I don't. I searched high and low for years before they became more and more readily available. The 1X flatteners that did nothing to your imaging train. And it took me a while to find one. But now they're more and more readily available, which is great. But I mean, I just don't like doing it. So I like to get things in one shot too, right? I don't like. I mean, I will end up doing mosaics. I've yet to do one because I just like getting it all in one shot. So I buy a scope with the focal length that I want to do things with. So if that's a 135 to get the Barnard's loop, or if it's my 6-inch astrophysics that I'm going to be doing Malot 15 with. But to get zoom in, those are the things that you got to kind of think of. And do yourself a favor. Dave will talk about software in a second, but go into astronomy.tools, take a look at different cameras and sensors and telescopes, and put them all together and see what you can actually image, and if it fits your vision. If it fits your vision, there you go.
Yeah.
One thing to mention about mosaics, that is an important thing to remember, is that like I'll take for instance Andromeda, right? If I'm shooting Andromeda with a scope where I can fit the entire galaxy and surrounding dust clouds into one image, that's great. That's great. But the advantage to a mosaic is that I can zoom in with a much tighter shot with a 3-panel mosaic, and I can pull more detail out and stitch those 3 images together. So that's one advantage to a mosaic.
That's very true. The resolution that you will grab
Exactly.
on that zoomed in with a large focal length image like that,
Yes.
you will get those little tiny knots, and you'll get those those lovely wispy detail stuff that you might not get.
Yeah.
That gets kind of
some of the nebula within it that'll be much more detailed.
yeah.
The downside is that for like a 3-panel mosaic of the Andromeda galaxy, is it takes literally 3 times
the time. Yeah. So
Yeah, and with the shortage of clear skies you may have, or and I
Russ
think
had
that's what deters me from doing mosaics is
yeah. Me too.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
But Ross had a good question.
Yep.
Do you think that most newcomers to the hobby will come with the least experience of a telescope as a child, or
The last experience as a child, or experience a smart scope purchased by a spouse?
You know,
I
that's a
don't-
good question.
Sorry.
And I think for now in this point where we are, this point in time, this era that we're at with smart telescopes, I don't think it's that uncommon given what we have seen, even with, with fellow astrophotographers showing us the images that they have been able to produce with these smart telescopes.
Mhm.
I don't see it as being uncommon for them to perhaps get started with these smart telescopes, like
Sure.
say the C Star, the S50, or the S30, or the Dwarf. But it comes to a point where that may be just fine for them. That may be just as satisfying. That may be as satisfying for them as they want to go. And that's totally up to them. But once you start, in my opinion, once maybe you start getting more involved into the hobby, you want to see how much further you can go. You want to maybe try to push the limit, push your limit further and beyond, what the smart telescope capabilities are. Because we have to remember a lot of these smart telescopes, they are they're very wide field, okay? And not only that, the cameras that they utilize are very small, they are very small, cameras
Crop
with very
down
small
sensors.
pixel sizes.
like
And they're very cropped.
Yeah.
Yes, and so it's going to come down to the individual and how further they want to go into the hobby. That's going to dictate, whether they make a decision like getting the mount, getting this camera, the scope, what have you. But no, I think now that what we have seen in the past year to 2 years with the technology of what a smart scope can do, and of course, we always have to think about, what about budget, no matter who you are, if you're rich or poor, you're always going to think about budget, because not even a richest person may not want to blow $20,000 on a, plane wave CDK or anything like that. And so if you are just getting started and you don't have this huge budget, and your spouse wants to do something for you to help get you started, to scratch that itch that you've been feeling and get your feet wet, I have no qualms, no problems, and nothing against anybody who wants to start out that way, because we have seen, at SFRO, what they have an entire roll-off roof observatory filled with smart telescopes, that's filled with S50s and S30s.
They actually call it the C Star
So what does
bar.
that tell me?
They literally
There
call
you
it
go.
the C
So
Star bar.
So what is that telling me? That people, they want to do this, but they are also trying to be budget conscious, and they're just getting started.
Yeah.
And maybe they're not just getting started, but they are really budget conscious and they just want to enjoy the hobby.
Yep. And just Jose came up with a good comment. I was watching the chat, and
They're a gateway drug.
they are a gateway drug. But you know what?
They absolutely.
What he said was, at least the smart scopes aren't hobby killers like cheap visual scopes, and that couldn't be more true.
Yes.
Do yourself a favor.
Yes.
Unless if you're under the age of 3, don't get something.
Oh, he's going to go into the back.
That goes on that cheap
tripod. That goes on
Unless if you're under the age of maybe 5, don't buy something like this.
Right.
You know what I mean? It says, first of all, it says 100 power.
100 times power.
Okay. Second of all, the moon is not going to look like that. Not in this, you know. But it's good. This is good for kids under the age of 3 to 5. I think this says ages 8 and up, but I think if you give this to an 8-year-old, they're going to take this thing and it's going to end up in a drawer somewhere. But you couldn't be more right, Jose, man. Too many people get turned off from shoddy equipment. And if you're going to spend a couple $100 on a scope, you're better off buying an S30 and then actually getting people interested. Oh my God, I just took a picture of that. That's awesome. And, you get the excitement going. You look through a bad visual scope and you're like, dude, this sucks. I'm not doing it.
Yeah. That's the easiest way to get them disinterested in the hobby. In astronomy, astrophotography, period. There is getting, I understand, it's the thought that counts, but when it's coming to something like this and we're talking about our next generation of astronomers and astrophotographers, the thought that you put into it, to get to get something or to contact, Dan, or get onto a web or to a show like this and talk about this stuff, it's so much. You don't want to crush a kid's, aspirations if they're really interested in something like this. And in my opinion, something like that is going to, it's going to disinterest them so fast. They're going to be done with it.
Yeah, it's good for
they're
a
not
certain age,
going
right?
to be able. Yeah, they're not going to be.
Good for
It's
a
like
certain age. The thing is,
okay, yeah,
you're going to have to be there to point it to something, or else what are they going to do?
My niece, I bought a telescope for my niece. She was 12. Okay. And this was while I was working at a telescope place. And somebody told me to buy her something like that on a tripod like this. And, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing that because, she's never going to freaking use it. So what do? Of course, I buy her a Nexstar 6.
Oh, perfect. Go-to
Good. Everything. And she loved it, used it for years.
Yep.
So, you got to know. Listen, not everyone's going to have the money to spend whatever. I think at that time even at that time, a Nexstar 6 was only $799. No, $799. And, and of course I got it at cost, but I mean, so I got, but I got it for $800, let's say. And she used it for years and she loved it. And her middle name is Star, Starr, which is kind of funny, but hey, we should duct tape works fine. Universal, yeah, okay. But yeah, but that's telescopes definitely is a big part of it. We should probably move on to the next one if anybody has any comments.
The flip side, the flip side to what you guys are talking about also is the individual that buys $5,000 worth of telescope stuff and then doesn't have a community of people to help him with the learning curve. I have a neighbor, a friend of mine, right down the bottom end of my circle here. He's an 8-inch Schmidt that is sitting in his closet. He's got a nice mount for it, Celestron mount, so a Celestron kit, right? That he's never, because nobody's ever taught him how to use it, and how to basically just get the most out of it. With that smart telescope, it quickly, with a small learning curve that then can give you the motivation to, move beyond.
Yep. Awesome.
No, just real quick. it's funny how all four of us have over the year when with these smart telescopes, how we may have had one aspect or one attitude towards them when they first came out.
Oh yeah,
But now our attitudes have changed,
a little bit,
and I think for the better.
A little bit.
I mean, a little bit for the better when it comes to these.
My attitude is the only reason I'd buy one is to take it to the Dominican.
Yep, I hear you. I'll bring it on a cruise.
There you go.
They serve a purpose.
They do. They do.
They do serve a purpose.
And by the way, don't set a tripod up on a boat. That doesn't work.
Oh, I've done it. I'll show you the picture.
Come on.
I have. I've done it. First cruise I ever took, I did that.
Wow.
Yep. Even when it was parked.
All right.
Anyway, moving on. So, Dave, you want to go next, or
Yeah, I'll go.
knock yourself out?
All right. So, anyway, so now you got your awesome mount. You got your telescope, whether that be 600 or 6,000 millimeter focal length.
6,000.
Now you need to control it.
And
Now you need to control it. So how do you control it? Well, we're down to software. And obviously you're going to need certain types of software to run either via, a laptop where, obviously your mount, your camera and all your stuff will be hooked through some kind of hub, or to where you can control that through either your laptop. They make mini PCs now, all kinds of stuff like that you can control your mount, your telescope, your cameras, everything like that. There's all kinds of software out there when you get started that you need to know what to get and how it operates. Obviously, this is a pretty big part of the learning curve, and sometimes the most frustrating part of the learning curve, because with software and computers come, glitches and problems that you're not expecting. But the baseline is you're going to need something to control your mount and your camera. You have tons of software out there like Sequence Generator Pro, you have Nina, you have Voyager, you have SharpCap, you have APT. You have all these different programs that can connect and run all your gear, and you can set up, a sequence in which you can take the number of photos you want at the times you want, everything like that, put them into a file, and then you go into processing, which is down the road. The thing that a lot of people I think don't get is, they think, oh, well, Nina's free, I'm going to get Nina. And then you get Nina and you go to connect your equipment and it doesn't connect. Well, because you need ASCOM platforms. You need to download the drivers for the equipment you have. There's a lot involved there. So the key is, once you figure out what platform you're going to use. So like for me, I use Nina, obviously. Everybody knows that. I'm a Nina slut. And but the next important thing is you need to get the ASCOM platform. ASCOM is basically a universal set of drivers and everything that works with virtually every piece of equipment you would ever need or want to use for your astrophotography setup. Once you have that, if your particular piece of equipment doesn't, if Nina doesn't support your specific piece of equipment natively, most of your equipment manufacturers have an ASCOM driver for it. So, and then once you have that, then now you can hook up to all your equipment and everything like that. So once you've hooked up to all your equipment, well, I want to go search the stars, see what I can find. And there are software like Stellarium and some of the other still area, astronomy sites that you can, go on and say, oh, okay, I want to do this. This is what I want to do. And you can punch in those coordinates into Nina. Nina will be able to talk to that um, planetary software as well with the right, once you put in the right settings. Um, and you can just say, go to this item. Well, it's going to try and slew to it, but it may not find it. So you need some sort of plate solving software. So I use AsTap. Some people use Plate Solve 2 or 3. They're all good. I mean, I've always used AsTap, which I've never had an issue with. But that's another piece of software that works in the background with these acquisition software, like SGP. It kind of just works in the background, and that helps you, slew to your targets. If it's not there, it takes a picture. It doesn't see it. Oh, let me move the telescope a little bit. Because what AsTap does is it takes a picture of the star field, and through a known registry, it can look at those stars and know where the telescope is pointing. And it can know where to move the telescope to try and center the target you want to look at or take pictures of. So that's one of the things as well. A lot of the things about Nina that I love is it's open source. So there are great plugins and stuff like that. It can control all your focusing needs. You have an automatic focuser, you know, and you don't have to sit out there and manually focus for, every time. Say your telescope cools and it goes out of focus. You don't have to go back out there and refocus. It knows it's seen that change in the way the stars look, and it stops and it refocuses your equipment, gets you back into shape. Um, so there's just a lot of things that when you get into the software part is what program you're going to use. I mean, obviously they're all pretty good. The reason I go crazy over Nina is because it's free. You can't beat free. The other ones require a subscription fee, or you a yearly subscription, or sometimes I think is it APT you buy once.
I
want to
believe
say,
APT
yeah.
has the trial license.
Right, but I think if once you buy it, you bought it and it's yours forever.
Yes,
So
like PixSense.
so yeah, you only buy APT once, and APT is actually pretty decent. I was when I first started, that's what I used was APT, and I went over to SharpCap for a little while, and then once I found it's constantly updated. They're constantly adding new things to make life easier, to where you literally can, at the beginning of the night, once you get all your stuff hooked up, connected, everything like that, you set up your sequencer how you want it. In the beginning of the sequence, you want to do certain things. You want it to slew and center to your object. You want it to take however many photos. Say you only have a couple hours on one target, but you still have a full night. Well, then you tell it, okay, well, after it's done there, shoot over this part of the sky and then start something else. And then at the end of the night, it'll shut everything down, park your scope, cool your or warm your camera back up, and everything's sitting there waiting for you in the file the next morning. You literally can set it up to where you press play, go to bed, wake up, and ideally nothing's happened to where you wake up and you realize your scope's pointing in the wrong direction. It's not parked. You're going, what happened? But typically that's the case where bad cables, a snag in the middle of the night. That's the one thing, we talked about meridian flips. Nina controls all that, does all that for you. But anything can happen. Sometimes in the middle of the night, it flips. And I'm not even saying may not even snag a cable, but maybe you got a cable that just doesn't have a very good connection and it flips, but now it won't do anything after
Yep.
because the cable just quite isn't good enough. But as far as the software, it's one of the things that is the kind of the toughest part of the learning because all the things we're dealing with, the mounts, the focusers, the filter wheels, the cameras, everything has to be run through some sort of software. So it's learning how to use that software and understanding what the software does as far as your drivers, your acquisition software, your plate solving software, everything like that. You have to have set up to where everything's working the way it's supposed to. And, you have to adjust it. Once you're trying to work your autofocus run, if you have an automatic focuser, you have to play with it so that you can get, the auto, every time it autofocuses, you want that nice curve so that, but sometimes you gotta play with it. You gotta play with your backslash setting. You gotta play with how long you're actually exposing for. Narrowband filters, you might have to expose a little longer than if you're using broadband. Um, there's a dance there with software, but it's a lot of it. Kind of makes it fun in a way to where you're actually doing hands-on stuff to make all the adjustments and get everything just right so that when you're set up for the night, press play, watch a few frames come in, go, okay, this is looking good, and hit the sack.
Yep. Yep.
So, outside of that, the next bit of software is obviously your processing stuff, but I don't think we can get
No, but and let's not forget the other part of this, the Raspberry Pi stuff, the
right.
Astro Station, which has plate solving and focusing and all the routines, the ASI Air, even though
Yeah, and you have ASI Air and
stuff like
the
that,
Stellina and
Stellarmate,
Stellarmate, and
yep,
what's the one by Tupec?
the Astro Station, yeah,
Oh, that's Astro Station.
yeah, that's the Astro. It used to be the Stella Vita, but they
Stella
changed
V, that's right.
yeah.
Oh, they call it Astro Station now?
What they call it, Astro Station. They changed it about
Okay.
a year ago. I'm not sure why.
Okay.
But
Yeah. So, and those are it's like Raspberry Pi based kind of things, which are really nice. And now instead of having a laptop, they make these great little mini PCs
Yep.
that you can have.
It's like the size of my
right
cell
on,
phone,
right on your rig and everything, and connect to your Wi-Fi in your home.
And if you're a Windows person, you could use something as small as a Melee, or you could go something as big as an Eagle.
An Eagle.
But,
So the Eagles are very high powered. They have everything you need in them.
Yep.
So they have your power, they have your dew heater capabilities, they have all that stuff, all integrated.
Yeah, like 10 USB ports. And it's crazy.
So and if you have extra accessories, like a flat panel, automated flat panel, like the Wanderer, or the Primoce or something like that, where you can you download their software and their program, and then that's just all part of the startup, and that's all monitored through Nina or SGP and everything like that. You can do not only take your light frames throughout the night. At the end of the night, before it gets too bright out, close the flat panel. You take your flats for the night, and all that's done. So the software has come a long way, and it's really, really, really helpful. You don't have to sit out there in the cold and freeze your butt off in the middle of the winter to get amazing data and and create amazing pictures. And now, like Dan can tell you, he does it from 2,000 miles away.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, down in Texas.
So
and
Yeah.
it's going right
Yeah.
now. I'm doing, you know what I'm doing? I'm doing CTB1, right? And I'm doing that, and I gotta tell you, and maybe Eric, you could chime in. I know Dave, I think you did this one too.
That's the little
The pop
planetary nebula.
balloon or the onion nebula, whichever one you want to
Oh,
call
okay.
it.
Oh, the
Yeah.
garlic
The
nebula.
garlic nebula, yeah.
Yeah,
so-
CTB1.
correct. And I took
Yeah.
a 5-minute hydrogen shot, and I saw
Uh-huh.
nothing.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah. It's extremely faint. It is
Yeah.
extremely.
Yeah, wait
faint.
till you take your
I'm
O3
not
shots.
surprised.
You're not going to see anything. either.
Nothing, right? Yeah. So you know, I can't wait to put it all together, but we'll see. But you know,
Yeah.
I'm sure
I
sure
mean,
it's there.
I did Casper the Friendly Ghost, and I got a ton of data on it. Every subframe I looked at, I was like, God, when I was blinking through, I was like, God, I can barely tell anything's there. But when I stacked it, I was surprised. I was like, wow, it actually looks pretty good. Now I'd like to get more data on it. You know,
Yeah.
clear skies. Hopefully, I'll be able to get some more.
I see Dave Samard is having an issue with his Exos 2 mount and keeping it connected to Nina. The Exos
Prior
mounts,
to that, we had another question too.
okay, so the
JL had a question. Yeah, JL had a question too. Just we want to get to that.
okay, we'll get to that. The Exos mounts with Nina, just make sure, number one, you got the right wire with the right chipset in it, the FTDI chipset in it. If you don't, if you have one of the older versions that doesn't have a USB port in it, and it's like a serial kind of thing, and also if you're using the what is it, the it's the little machine that they have, the PMC8, I think it was called. That was serial. I wasn't really a fan of the mount. I was more of a fan of the Exos 1 that was like super light and it was nice and it hooked up to everything. But if you want, I could try
That's
and help you
by
out.
Max Vision. Is that
No, it's Explore Scientific.
Explore Science?
Yep.
Does it have a serial? Does it have something like this? Does it need like a serial to USB connection?
If you have the PMC8, yes. If you don't, it may not. So that's why I'm asking. But
So it doesn't have a USB port.
it may or may not, depending on which which rendition of it you have.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Yeah, it's got the big silver. The one I had the big silver box. It was like another computer that ran everything with serial cables, and yeah, was not a fan. But it's a PMC.
David says yes. It's the
Yeah.
PMC8.
So the PMC8 I had a problem with too, and you're right. I think somebody said it went no problem with the ASI Air. I had the same issue. The ASI Air
Nina?
worked fine. Nina, it wasn't great. I honestly just stopped using the mount, and I ended up selling the mount and getting something a little different. But that was just a personal preference. Yeah, you need the special cable too. Yep, absolutely. You said there was another question, Eric, before we get into cameras because we're running a little over time.
Yeah, JL had a question: harmonic mount versus equatorial mount, and it depends on what you mean as far as your question. Trying to get a little more clarification, but
Because the harmonic mount is an equatorial.
It is, because yes, it is an equatorial mount. They're one and the same. It's just how they're geared. Okay. A traditional German equatorial mount uses either a worm gear or a belt driven gears. And you have harmonic mounts which use strain wave gear. So the popularity with the harmonic mount or strain wave mounts is they weigh a lot less than your traditional German equatorial mounts, and they
Handle similar payloads.
but they have higher torque. But they have similar payloads. They have higher torque. They can carry a lot more, okay, but weigh a lot less. But they do the exact same thing. There's just they just use a different type of technology and gears and motors and how they do it.
And
So
And
that's
they
basically
are
it.
just to tack in
They
on
are
that.
really fast. As far as when they slew, they can slew very fast. They don't have any backlash. The one thing they have is periodic error, but that can be guided out with
That's
PhD2, which is another piece of software that
that's where I was going. A lot of people, when they first enter into the harmonic drive kind of thing, the first thing people get hung up on is the periodic error.
and it can be guided out, and it's
very easily it's a non-issue at all.
it is.
It is this like big mountain out of a molehill thing, and I'm like, yeah, you know what? It's gonna have it because the way the motors turn, it's gonna have it. And you know what? It doesn't. I'm running it on a Nix 101 right now in Texas, guiding at 0.22 in Texas, 0.22. I couldn't get that with my EQ6R with less periodic error up here in New York.
Yeah, and see, I would trade that little bit of periodic error that's obviously predictable and
Yep.
guided out to backlash.
Yep. 100%.
Because the backlash, is going to be more susceptible to the slightest little breeze.
Yep.
Where that strain wave, the slight breeze,
Ain't moving.
Right.
Nope.
So just remember, in a nutshell, when you're doing PhD2 guiding with a strain wave mount, increase your exposure speed to like maybe half a second or a second
Half a
versus
second.
the
That's what I use,
older, or the,
the older,
versus the older German
For
equatorial
guiding.
mounts, you would use maybe for guiding,
For guiding,
auto guiding using PhD2, you would be at 2 seconds, 2 to 3 seconds.
Yep.
I
Yeah, that's
use
about where I'm
half a
at.
second. I use half a second with my strain wave, and I use 3 seconds on my EQ.
Yep. I'm the same way.
Take care, Tarek. Thanks.
And
Yeah, the
All
strain
right.
waves
So
quick, because they want to go. Because a lot of the strain waves,
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, with my strain wave, once I've centered on a target, I can not guide at all, and I can 10 minutes later take a picture, and the thing is still almost dead center of the frame.
Yep.
It's tracking it that well.
nice. I see a lot of people are dropping off already. I know we're running into time a little bit. We could always go into my section on Friday night if you want.
on Friday, yeah,
You know, but
yeah, that may make sense.
we definitely went a little over here. And it's going to take me another 20 minutes to do mine and close out the show. That means, 10-15 or so because we'd like to talk. But
Yeah.
why don't we do that on the next Wednesday? Because I think next Friday we're going to kind of talk about the same kind of thing that we spoke about tonight. And please tell us in the chat if you like this type of format where it's a little bit more structured and stuff like that. We had some help getting we did a little brainstorming session on Monday to get this together. Just trying to figure things out. Let us know if you like it this way. And please hit us up in the Discord. Let us know your thoughts because it's doesn't matter what we think. It matters what you think and how we can get more people to watch. So that's it.
Good.
I
Tom.
like
Thanks,
this a lot, Tom. All right. I have to work
Yeah,
on Friday. Well, good thing it's on YouTube, so you can catch it. It'll be okay.
Exactly. You can catch it.
Tom's easy to please.
Yeah.
Rich likes
Thanks, Richard. Appreciate it. Yep, Rich likes it. JL came back to since these mounts are newer on the scene, what would you use if given the choice? It really depends on what you are doing, JL, and what you're and and where you're going to be using this. Someone made a comment. David did for a permanent installation. For a permanent installation, if you're using this in an observatory, you're putting it on a permanent pier, something like that, go with a German equatorial mount.
100%.
I would say definitely go with a German equatorial mount and get it set up with the correct payload capacity, the correct type that can handle the heavier payload capacity that you're looking for. Strainwave, again, one of the biggest things about Strainwave is their, that was the biggest appeal was their weight. They're low weight, but they have high payload capacity. You can take these, you can travel with these. Some of them are between 10 to 12 pounds, depending on, some of the more common ones like your ZW AM5, the 150 here, the AM100. They're small. I mean,
Yeah,
you
so
look at this.
unlike
This
the
guy,
Mighty,
this guy
right?
is small.
Unlike the Mighty,
Yes.
where you had that hand holding the Mighty.
Oh.
Remember that thing? The marketing ploy that they had. Somebody was holding it with their hand. Dude's breaking his wrist.
No.
When you're doing it with the Wave
Yeah.
100, you could actually do that. You could hold it with one hand. And
Yeah, I mean, literally, you can
They're
hold this thing with
small,
one
they
hand. If
usually
I take
come
this
in a
off really
case
quick.
that you can travel easy with.
Yep.
You know?
Yep.
something broken.
Nope, it's fine. It was just across. No, it was just across. It was just the bar, the counterweight bar.
They're
So it's
very
fine.
lightweight. They hold a ton of weight. And
Dave,
when I say a ton of weight,
There.
Dave Barnett has Shaquille O'Neal hands. I mean, so that's why he can hold, an ME2 with one hand. He's got he palms dinner plates. This guy,
12 pounds. 12 pounds for this guy. You can't.
Yeah.
I cannot do this. I can't do this with my Mighty Mount or my CEM40 or CEM60 or any other German equatorial mount. I couldn't do that with it. I can't do that with those types of mounts.
And even though that is very
Strainwave
lightweight,
mounts,
even though that's very lightweight for the size, it still feels like a very substantial weight.
Yeah,
it is. It's still very substantial,
You're
but
like
it is
going,
very
wow, this thing is
lightweight.
made very well, but it's just so compact.
It is.
Yep.
Where like my EQ6 head takes 2 hands to carry.
Oh my God, I pulled the muscle.
You're not. I mean, it has a handle on it because it's so damn heavy. Yeah, and it all comes in a little box like that. Yeah.
Yeah, my EQ6 I sold.
Easy to take this.
I'll be honest with you. Mobily, I will never, ever, ever, for the rest of my life, take out into a field for my own personal use anything other than a harmonic mount.
Yeah.
I will not.
Yeah.
I will not do it. I'm not I'm not gonna go bringing out astrophysics Mach 2s out there or anything crazy. Hell no. I'm not doing it. I'm too damn old.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
Not even back then. Jeez, I wouldn't even do it. But
yeah, even my RST 300, I can hold with one hand.
Yeah. Yep.
Exactly.
And that is probably it's probably the biggest.
He's using an 8-inch edge on his AM5.
Yeah.
That tells you how much they can hold right there.
I think the RST 300 is. I think it's probably the biggest of the harmonic mounts out there.
Yeah, well, it's also 110 or 100 capacity on it.
Yeah, it's got 110 pound capacity.
So, I mean, there's no other harmonic mount out there like that. But you got to remember again that the RST 300 is also over $9,000. So, so
this guy, seriously, with this counterweight, with this 15-pound counterweight, I can carry that 45-pound setup.
Yep.
Okay. With 12 pounds, carrying 45, maybe a little bit more than 45.
45 or better.
Yep.
Yes. So, but again, it's all about if you are going to set up a permanent observatory or observation stations, observatory and anything like that, go for it. Go ahead and get the German equatorial mount. Go ahead and get that solid mount. But if you're going to be doing some traveling or you're going to be taking this thing in and out of your garage or out of your home or anything like that and setting it up nightly or every few nights or whatever,
wheelie bars.
Save yourself.
Yeah, no, hell no.
Save yourself.
Not all of us are Scott that wheels out like 400 pounds worth of equipment.
John says, just setting up
save yourself.
In the backyard is a sure. And I was like, John, my EQ6 stays out back, and I don't move.
Yep.
I just take the telescope off if I have to, wrap everything up, and it stays.
I love my
Yeah.
EQ8. My EQ8, I love it. I think it's probably one of the best mounts I've ever used so far
Oh,
to
yeah.
date, and it's been a solid workhorse for me. But I'll be damned if I'm bringing it to Cherry Springs or something, because that thing,
Hell,
just getting it out of the box was a nightmare. You know what I mean? It's heavy. Once it got on that pier, it didn't get off that pier until I moved. That's it.
So, and to David's point, yes, with my setup here that you see here, I am using my current my tri-pier. You know, this wasn't an upgrade; it's just something I had. You know, it's just, you know, I'm using what I got. You know, but for most folks, especially if you're traveling, you can get, you know, that carbon that lightweight carbon fiber tripod, but don't forget to get ballast weight for it. You know, get that little net, get the ballast, get maybe 5-10 pound ballast weight for it, so that way
I
you
think
can
just
weigh
get
that thing down. You know, so you can't, even if you're using a 12-pound setup. I don't care. You know,
But you don't
this is
have
just
to
me.
bring the
You don't have a
ballast weight
12.
with you. You can travel without the ballast weight. Just
No.
bring a bag, and
You
then
can-
when you
yeah.
get to where you're going, find a bunch of rocks and fill that bag.
Well, hold on a second. I'll
Yeah.
tell you right now. I use my my Nix 101
Well,
with the 400 from the Asgard, the FRA 400. I use
Mhm.
my 6-inch Newt. I've used my what else did I put on there?
put your astrophysics on there.
I did not. I will not. No. That's only been on the EQ8. Just for the sole fact that I think it can handle the weight. It's just the length of the tube. I don't have the extensions.
The length.
heavy.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
length. Yeah, the length.
But I'll tell you this:
Making top heavy.
the scopes that I mentioned, with the exception of the AP scope, all were on top of the carbon fiber mount without any extra weights or anything. I didn't have to do anything. I would literally take my Red Cat with everything on there. It's probably about, when you add it
Okay.
all together, about 20 pounds worth of payload. And I would close the thing, close the legs, put the whole thing with the eagle on my shoulder, and walk in the house. And I was never in fear of it flipping or anything. Now,
Well, yeah.
if you sit there and put a 9 1/4 Schmidt on there, and then you have more
Yes,
weight
like this.
going from the center of mass, that's could potentially flip your scope, then yeah, you definitely are going to want to add some counterweights like Arcads behind them. So
So I mean,
Yeah,
even me.
yeah.
I mean,
I mean, when you
put
got something
my,
like this, yeah, don't do that.
I put my Warp Astron on that Meade tripod, which is pretty heavy. But I can take that with the tripod, the mount, and the telescope, which is the Newt, 6-inch Newt, which is
Yep.
heavy and all the stuff, and I can pick it up, bring it
Yep.
in the house, take it out, put it down,
yeah,
all
again,
put together.
if you
It's awkward coming through the door, but picking it up, it's not heavy
No.
at all. I
But
mean,
if
the tripod's the heaviest thing.
if you take a look at the astrophysics site, there's a nice diagram on there on how payload weights start
Yes.
getting heavier as you get further away from the center of mass of the mount.
Center of
Of
gravity. Yeah.
course they do.
So just for an example, I mean, all right, take something like this. There you go. Take something like this. And I do this to people all the time, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you're right. Oh my God, it's such an easy thing." And take this, hold this like this for a minute. It's not going to be a problem.
Yeah.
Now,
Hold it out here.
extend your arm and do that for a minute, and tell me
Yeah.
how you feel. Now imagine how your gearing feels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got to sit there and do that, because you're further away. it's going to be heavier. You're not increasing the
Yes.
weight, but you're increasing the pressure on the gearing because it's so far away.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why,
Well,
whenever you put your telescope and your equipment onto a mount, it's best to have the shortest length of dovetails and everything so that your telescope is as close to that mounting plate as possible.
Yep.
You can put accessories on top because the accessories aren't going to weigh typically as much as that telescope.
Yep.
So, and you want your center mass to be as close to the center of that mount as you can.
Awesome.
And it makes it easier to balance. If you have counterweights with an old style equatorial mount, it's easier to get that balance when you have everything close to that center mass.
It's a similar principle with in our solar system. There's the planets have this thing called angular momentum, and the physics behind that. It's similar to what you're doing with the weight. You hold it into yourself versus you hold it out. And you feel the difference. And the weight hasn't changed. It's
Nope.
where the weight is in position to its anchor.
Correct.
With angular momentum, it's a similar process. You sit down in a chair that spins, and you spin. You hold two bricks out, on your hands. You hold two bricks out in your hands, right, and spin around, and then put the bricks in your lap.
No.
See what
And
happens.
you'll spin faster.
Exactly right.
Yep.
It's like an ice
It's
skater.
angular momentum.
That's
Just like an ice
same
skater.
thing. Like it's the thing called Euler's disc, right? You got that
Yep.
little disc, and as it gets slower to the bottom, it moves faster and faster and faster. Right.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Any other
JL
questions
was
out there?
asking. Yeah. Let's see. There.
I think
what-
JL had another question.
Yeah, he was asking his EQG is dead. His
Oh,
is dead.
what a great mount, huh?
And
What a great
Atlas,
mount.
a 100i, 150, or an M. He's looking at an ML Astro Sal 31 and a 150, a Wave 100 or a Wave 150.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, he didn't say what type of payload are you going to be planning on putting on this?
What are you putting on there?
What's the most payload?
buying
What's the most
Origin.
payload you think you're going to end up putting on
Yeah.
this? I like to know what's the most amount of payload you're going to be putting on this guy, because that's going to dictate, a recommendation.
Yep.
And if you're looking at the Sal 130 and between the Sal 130, the 150, and the 100, I would just nix
I would
the
get the
100.
150.
I
would get the 150
and go with the 150. With the one, because I just said earlier, you're future proofing yourself.
Yeah,
My
it's
opinion,
it's
you're
kind of one of those
future-proofing
things, right,
yourself.
Eric? You'd rather have it and not need it, right?
Exactly.
Exactly.
So
Same thing goes for tripods.
All right.
Peers.
Yeah.
Future proof.
Hey, does
Yeah.
that real quick, Eric?
Future
Does
proof.
that mount run the EQ mod?
What mount? No,
You
that's
can.
not.
Yes.
That's
This
not-
Wave 150.
it doesn't.
Is that EQ mod?
I was told you can use an EQ mod
Yes.
cable with this.
Yeah, you can. Sure.
You can use an EQ mod cable with this, with the 150i, with the Skywatcher, with this Wave 100 or the 150. I don't have one, but you can use one as well.
Well, no, EQ mod
Okay.
can be the program that you run.
Yeah, John, we can do that too.
Yeah, but it's also you can use it, but it's also a cable. There's also an EQ mod cable. Is there
Yeah,
not?
but don't you have a USB port out of that? You have a USB.
It's got a
port.
USB. port.
Me, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes,
Yeah,
me,
so
I do.
EQ
I
mod-
use USB.
You just
mod
need to
would
use
be
the
the
EQ mod
program.
driver. That's it.
Driver,
You don't need
yeah,
the cable.
mod
Yeah.
driver. As
I don't need
opposed
the I don't
to
need the
Green
cable or
Swamp-
anything.
Green Swamp.
Yep, Green Swamp server. Yep.
Green Swamp.
Yeah,
Green
I'm not even
Swamp.
using Green Swamps. I'm not even using Green Swamp server with this. I mean, there's the SendScan app.
Yep.
Just like the one on your phone, they have a Windows version. Just like the one on your phone, they have a Windows version. You fire that up, and then I plug this guy into my Melee, and there is an
They use the
ASCOM driver
SynScan app?
for SynScan. Yes, there's an ASCOM driver for SynScan. There's an actual
use it.
ASCOM driver for the SynScan app, and it will connect up to Nina. I've tested it out. It actually
Okay.
goes. It actually connects up. So I, now it's just, and I was able to move this thing around within Nina. So it worked.
I do sell SV Boni, John. I have some in stock, so let me know. JL still hasn't answered about the scope. So JL, if you want to hit us up on Discord, go check us out on Discord at AstroWorld's Q&A. We're on that. There was I think Dave asked if I have the RH. I do not. I have the regular version. I couldn't justify the cost of encoders being in New York. I just couldn't justify it. The seeing in New York sucks enough. There's only so much you could do.
Oh, you're talking about your EQ8?
Yeah. I don't have the
Yeah.
encoder version, but
David, the 150i and a 3 to 100, they do come with a right angle cable for this guy, and I'm also using right angle cables for my power ports. So that that seems to help me with navigating with all of my cabling and everything on the base here itself. So I don't have an issue with that. And then I just run everything, and I've started figuring out how to run everything from the saddle as far as power and everything like that. So I can run power, and then I also have a little hub, so I can then run USB and everything right to equipment. But yeah, I do have right angle power, and it comes with a right angle USB cable with the mount. So that's how I'm getting along.
gotcha. All right. It's about that time. It's
Awesome.
9:57.
Yep, a little over, but all good.
That's all right. I got to get up at 6 a.m. in the morning, so it's time. It's time to go night
just
night.
a little information as far as the imaging contest of the month for December.
Yep.
We have our winners. There was only one entry and thank you to the entrants. One entry that was entered in for experienced and for novice. So go check out our website to take a look at those images. So congratulations to Nathan and Lawrence for their entries. So you guys are automatically going into for December. You guys are automatically going into the calendar. So
There you go.
Way to go.
Rock and roll. And the calendar is being put together
Congratulations.
now. We're just waiting on the image of the year to be done, and I'll add some months so you get a full 12 months out of it, not another 10 months. And on a side note, Astropalooza invites have gone out to 16 speakers. So I'm waiting to get some answers on who wants to be involved. I know it's a little late, but I thought that with my move and Eric's move and things going on and life just getting in the way, I think that it was a wise choice, not only because of a personal standpoint, but a AstroWorld standpoint. It looks like we're able to do Astropalooza 4 on episode 500 on February 28th. So,
Awesome.
There you
go.
and
right.
and in the spirit of episode 500, I'm going to throw a gift certificate out there of undetermined value yet for people, for AstroWorld telescopes. For a thank you for everybody who's supported not only AstroWorld TV, but also supported AstroWorld telescopes as well over the past couple of years. So thank you to everybody, and watch on the website for more information on more giveaways that'll be happening for Astropalooza. So
Awesome.
All right, cool. Well, any final thoughts, guys, before we hop out of here?
I'm done. I got to go take my NyQuil and go to bed.
Yeah.
All right, same here. Not the NyQuil, but I got to go to bed.
I hear you.
But thank you guys,
NyQuil for me.
everybody. Yeah. No NyQuil, but I got to get to bed. But thanks everybody for joining us on this Wednesday. We really appreciate it. Don't forget, give us a thumbs up on this video and other videos. We really would appreciate that. Appreciate that support. Leave comments, in the chat. We will take a look at those and hopefully get back to you in our next one once we see those. But until next time, keep imaging, keep educating in clear skies, and see you guys on Friday. Take care, everybody.